He had just dropped his older children off at their mother's house. His 3-year-old daughter Bexley was asleep in her car seat. He was heading home on his usual route, a 40-minute drive, part of it along a dark, deserted stretch of road with no streetlights. Christina had spoken to him minutes earlier. He told her he'd be home in 15 minutes. Then he saw a tire in the road. He stopped. He turned on his hazard lights. He got out to move it. That was when the shots were fired. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you're new here, because this case was not a random attack, not a robbery, not a moment of passion. It was planned. The tire was placed there deliberately. And the journey from a church meeting as teenagers to a murder-for-hire plot is one of the most disturbing illustrations of what a bitter divorce can become when the people involved refuse every limit. Let's go back to the beginning. Jared Bridegan was born in 1989 in Florida, the second of 2 sons. He grew up with his older brother Adam in a family that was devout in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As a teenager, he met a girl named Mallory Bowden at church. They dated, and she would later describe him as her first true love. But their religious community discouraged cohabitation and long engagements, and when Jared graduated in 2007 and moved to Utah for college, they parted ways. At a friend's birthday party in 2009, 20-year-old Jared met Shanna Gardner. She was 2 years older and came from significant wealth. Her parents, Starling and Shelley Gardner, had co-founded Stampin' Up!, a major company manufacturing and selling craft and decorative products, headquartered in Salt Lake City, generating around $100 million in annual revenue by 2010. Shanna had grown up in luxury, trained as a chef but never worked in the profession, and was described by those who knew her as enthusiastic, fickle, and accustomed to a life without financial constraint. According to Mallory, Jared was not initially interested in Shanna. She had pursued him, drawing him in with the promise of a life funded by her family's wealth, travel, comfort, freedom from financial worry. He was 20 years old and still in college. She was persuasive. They became engaged within a few months of meeting. In early 2010, they married in a temple in Salt Lake City, an extravagant ceremony with all expenses covered by the Gardner family. The life that followed was built entirely on money that wasn't Jared's. The Gardners helped the newlyweds purchase a home valued at approximately $1 million. Each spouse drove their own Mercedes. Jared was still a student. Shanna was not working. They traveled extensively, documenting expensive trips and luxury purchases across their social media accounts. Close friends said the Gardners were providing the couple with approximately $10,000 per month for living expenses, with additional access to family accounts. When Jared finished his degree, his in-laws gave him $100,000 to launch a business. In 2013, the couple had twins Abigail and Liam. When Liam was diagnosed with a heart condition and respiratory issues, doctors recommended moving closer to the coast. The family relocated to Ponte Vedra Beach, south of Jacksonville, Florida, purchasing a 2-story home near the water. Shanna was actively managing a social media presence that portrayed her as a devoted wife, caring mother, accomplished chef, and fitness enthusiast. She took the gym seriously, attending almost every day. Jared, recognizing her dedication, hired a personal trainer for her. That decision would have consequences he couldn't have imagined at the time. Whatever the marriage had been at its best, it began to deteriorate clearly after the move to Florida. Shanna grew increasingly disenchanted with their religion and largely stopped attending church. Jared remained devout. The gap in religious commitment generated ongoing tension and misunderstanding. Shanna reportedly grew frustrated with Jared as well, seeing him as lacking ambition. Having gained weight, only half-heartedly pursuing the business his in-laws had funded. Jared, meanwhile, had pivoted. He completed online courses in programming and design and secured a position at Microsoft, eventually being promoted to senior manager. He was building an independent career and income for the first time in their marriage. But the marriage was already gone. Jared discovered intimate communications between Shanna and the personal fitness trainer he had hired for her. The trainer confirmed an affair in a phone call with Jared, though Shanna denied it categorically. Jared reached out to Mallory Bowden, his old girlfriend from church, expressing his grief and confusion, saying he was willing to forgive in order to keep the family together for the twins. It didn't matter. The couple began divorce proceedings in 2015, nearly 6 years after their wedding. The divorce was savage. Shanna refused to divide the home, the cars, or the bank accounts. Her position was that nearly everything they had acquired had been purchased or gifted by her family, and that Jared, who had only recently begun earning independently, was not entitled to half of it. Jared challenged that position. He claimed at least half of the Florida home. He also accused Shanna of having installed hidden cameras in their house, tapping his phone calls, and placing a GPS tracker in his car to monitor his movements. Custody of the twins produced the bitterest battles. Shanna accused Jared of coaching the children on what to say about her and recording their statements for use in court. She sought sole custody and exclusive possession of the home. Jared accused Shanna of working off the books at her parents' company to evade taxes on tens of thousands of dollars in income. By the end of 2015, the court ordered joint custody. This did not end anything. For the next 7 years, through both parties remarrying and having additional children, they continued filing motions and making appearances in court, accumulating mutual accusations that never quite resolved and never quite stopped. In 2016, Jared met Christina, a Microsoft colleague in North Carolina. Their interactions were initially professional. They grew closer over time. Christina eventually relocated to Florida to be with him. They married in February 2019. Their daughter Bexley was born in August 2021. By early 2022, Christina had recently given birth to their second child together. Shanna remarried in 2018, a man named Mario Fernandez, a year younger than her, who owned a real estate business. They had a son named Michael. The family lived in the same home Shanna had shared with Jared, the same property that had been fought over in court. The last formal court meeting between Jared and Shanna took place 4 months before his death. It was as bitter as any that had preceded it. Among the disputes was Shanna's claim that Jared was preventing her from using the family's larger vehicle to transport the children, that he was more interested in humiliating her than in his children's practical comfort and safety. The court sided with Shanna and ordered Jared to pay her $600 in compensation. February 22, 2022, a Wednesday. Jared picked up the twins for their regular family Wednesday dinner. He took them to a coastal cafe, spent the evening with them and with Bexley. After dinner and a walk, he drove to Shanna's house and dropped the twins off. Then he headed home via his usual route. Christina called him. He told her he had just dropped off the children and would be home in 15 minutes. On the dark, unlit stretch of road he drove regularly, his headlights illuminated something in his lane, a tire. Jared slowed down. He stopped. He turned on his hazard lights. 3-year-old Bexley was asleep in her car seat in the back. He stepped out of the car to move the tire. The shots were immediate, close range, multiple rounds. He had no time to react, no opportunity to defend himself or escape. The shooter fled. A passerby heard the shots, approached cautiously, and found Jared in a pool of blood beside his car. They called emergency services. It was too late. Bexley was unharmed in the back seat. The wallet, the phone, the tablet were untouched in the car. Nothing had been stolen. Christina waited. 30 minutes passed. An hour. Jared wasn't answering his phone. When she called again, a police officer picked up and asked her to come to the Jacksonville Beach Police Station. When investigators asked Christina if her husband had any known enemies, she told them there was one person who came to mind, but she was careful not to make direct accusations without evidence. She mentioned Jared's relationship with his ex-wife. The stretch of road where Jared was killed had no surveillance cameras. The witness who heard the shots confirmed that there had been no screaming, no confrontation, no sound of struggle, only the shots themselves, and then a car accelerating away in the dark. Detectives canvassed the areas surrounding cameras and found footage from a distance. An old, dark blue Ford F-150, with brown trim entering the area approximately 15 minutes before the shooting, and leaving shortly after the witness reported the gunfire. Police issued a public appeal for information about the vehicle. Shanna and her husband Mario were questioned repeatedly. Both denied any involvement. Shanna acknowledged the difficult history with Jared, but insisted she would never harm the father of her children. The dark blue Ford F-150 proved difficult to trace. Nearly a year passed. Then the truck was involved in a hit-and-run accident, but this time in a populated area with multiple witnesses and extensive camera coverage. The driver was identified the same day. He was Henry Tenon, 62 years old, unemployed, with prior criminal convictions. Tenen was charged with second-degree premeditated murder, criminal conspiracy, and planning an ambush. When Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Jonathan Paul Smith and prosecutor Melissa Nelson announced the charges in January 2023, they confirmed that Tenen had not acted alone and was cooperating with investigators, providing information about others involved. Investigators established that Tenen had been renting a small house. The house was owned by Mario Fernandez. A thorough search of the property produced a hidden pistol in Tenen's room. Ballistic testing confirmed it was the murder weapon. On March 16, 2023, Mario Fernandez was arrested. Tenen, facing a sentence that at his age could effectively mean the rest of his life in prison, had agreed to cooperate fully. He identified Mario as the person who had contracted the murder. Mario was charged with first-degree murder, criminal conspiracy, and incitement to commit a serious crime. The investigation then turned to the question of who had set the plan in motion. A former fitness trainer, the same man at the center of the allegations about Shanna's affair years earlier, came forward and told investigators that Shanna had harbored a long-standing contempt for Jared and had expressed a desire for his death on multiple occasions. The tattoo artist who knew Shanna testified that on separate occasions, months apart, Shanna had complained about the endless legal battles with her ex-husband and had asked whether she knew of anyone who could help her silence him permanently. The first time it was mentioned, it was dismissed as a dark joke. The second time, the same question was raised with unmistakable seriousness. Shanna denied everything. She said she intended to stay in Florida and cooperate with the investigation. In August 2023, she relocated to Washington with the twins and her youngest son. She was arrested in her Washington apartment and extradited back to Florida. 3 people were now charged in connection with Jared Bridegan's murder. Henry Tenen, the shooter Mario Fernandez, the husband who allegedly contracted the hit, and Shanna Gardner Fernandez, who prosecutors believe initiated and directed the entire plan. The alleged motive: a refusal to share custody, an unwillingness to split assets, and years of accumulated bitterness toward the man who had been her husband, her co-parent, and for 7 years following their divorce, her opponent in family court. Tenen pleaded guilty to all charges and is cooperating fully with prosecutors. He faces a minimum of 15 years which, at 62, is likely a life sentence in practical terms. Mario Fernandez has partially acknowledged guilt, but exercised his legal right not to testify against his wife. Shanna Gardner Fernandez has denied all charges. Prosecutors are seeking either the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her 3 children are in the care of her parents, Starling and Shelley Gardner, and her sister Sarah. Christina Bridegan has spoken publicly about her husband and about the case. She has described Jared as someone who genuinely tried to be a good father to all 4 of his children, the twins included, despite the hostility that surrounded the co-parenting arrangement. She has spoken about her daughter Bexley, who was 3 years old and asleep in the back seat while her father was shot beside the car. Jared Bridegan was 33 years old. He had rebuilt his life after a difficult marriage and a brutal divorce. He had a career he had earned independently, a new wife, a daughter he adored, and a second child recently born. He picked his older children up every Wednesday for dinner and made that a consistent, reliable part of their lives despite everything their mother's legal campaigns had done to complicate it. On a dark stretch of road he drove every week, someone had placed a tire in his lane. He got out of the car to move it. He had no idea what the last 7 years had been building toward. The legal proceedings are ongoing. The full picture of who decided what and when may not emerge until the trials conclude. What is documented is this: a custody dispute that began in 2015, that produced 7 years of court filings, that consumed the time and money and energy of everyone around it, and that someone decided could only be resolved one way. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do. New cases every week. We'll see you in the next one.